All right, if you're prepping for competitive exams, you know that an institution like NABARD is always a hot topic. But what are they really doing on the ground? Today, we're going to unpack something huge, how NABARD is building climate resilience for India's massive rural economy. Let's dive right in.
You know, the challenge here isn't just big, it's personal for millions of people. Think about it. Rural livelihoods are completely tied to the land and water. And with climate change throwing everything off balance, NABARD's work is so much more than just policy. It's an absolute lifeline.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the why, the huge climate problem facing rural India. Then we'll get into NABARD's solutions, looking at both the money and the on-the-ground action. We'll also peek into their future strategy, and then we'll wrap it all up with a super focused summary just for your exam revision.
Okay, let's start at square one. What exactly is the climate challenge we're talking about in rural India? You see, before we can really appreciate NABARD's solutions, we've got to understand the sheer scale of the problem they're up against.
This right here, it's like a domino effect. It all starts with wild, unpredictable weather that just wrecks agriculture. But it doesn't end there. That chaos leads to climate-induced migration, which puts this incredible strain on our cities. And here's the part that is absolutely crucial for your exams. Look at who gets hit the hardest. It's always the most vulnerable, the small farmers, women, and tribal communities. You'll want to remember that for any descriptive answer you write.
So, with that problem laid out, let's jump to Section 2 and talk solutions. How is NABARD actually fighting back? Well, it's all about their climate action initiatives, and we're going to start by following the money.
And here it is, the headline number you need to remember. This figure shows you the incredible scale of NABARD's commitment. As of March 31, 2025, we're talking about nearly 2,000 crore rupees channeled directly into climate change projects. That's a massive, massive investment.
So where does that nearly 2,000 crore actually come from? This table breaks it all down. For your exams, you absolutely have to know these acronyms. NAFCC, that's the National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change, GCF, the Global Green Climate Fund, and AF, the Adaptation Fund. And you can see right away that GCF is the single biggest piece of the puzzle here.
Now, steering all of this action is a really important document, the NABARD 2028 Climate Strategy. The easiest way to think about this is as their official roadmap. The main goals? To seriously ramp up green finance and to weave climate action into everything they do.
So what's holding this strategy up? It's these 4 pillars. And for your exams, here is a fantastic little mnemonic to lock this in. Just think of NABARD's climate aims. A is for accelerating green lending, I is for internal green transformation, M is for market development, and S is for strategic resource mobilization. Aims. Simple, right? And super effective.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty, the actual tools NABARD is using. These are the specific financial products you'll want to have in your back pocket for those objective questions. Pay attention to the details here. The NGLF, which was launched in January 2025 with 845 crores in assistance, that really clever home loan that comes bundled with rooftop solar, and of course, the grant-based Climate Change Fund.
All right, let's move on to our third section. We've talked about the money. Now let's talk about the mud. We're shifting gears to the real, on-the-ground work. The program's designed to build back soil and water health in India's huge rain-fed areas. The flagship program here is LREDP. Yeah, I know, it's a mouthful, but let's break it down. It's basically a big-picture approach to making rain-fed farming, which is super vulnerable to climate shocks, more resilient and self-sustaining. This keyword, LREDP, is absolutely golden for your descriptive answers. A huge part of this work involves international partners, like the KfW soil program from Germany. This timeline is really telling because it shows the program isn't just a one-off thing. It's evolved over 3 distinct phases, each with its own funding and scope. It really highlights the kind of long-term thinking you need for these projects to work.
And here's a perfect example of this in action. In the Kota Tea watershed, NABARD didn't just show up with a plan. First, they did their homework. They ran a detailed water budgeting exercise. And what they found was staggering, a water deficit of over 162 hectometers. Because they had that hard data, their recommendations were targeted and actually made sense. This is a fantastic case study to pull out in your answers.
Now for Section 4. We're going to zoom our focus in on one of India's most climate-vulnerable communities, its tribal populations. This part is all about how NABARD's strategy to support them has evolved over time.
Okay, meet tribes, another critical acronym for you. Now, for your exam, the most important detail here is the evolution.
Tribes is the new, rebranded, and much more focused version of the older Tribal Development Fund, or TDF. And its new focus is specifically on particularly vulnerable tribal groups, which makes its approach way more precise.
So, what's the real-world impact of a program like Tribes? Well, this number pretty much says it all. This is the average annual increase in income for families in the project we're about to look at. It's an incredibly powerful way to measure success.
So how on earth was that 70,000 rupee increase achieved? In Jalpaiguri, West Bengal, the Tribes Project went in and targeted 200 landless families with a really simple but powerful idea: give them livestock and help them start kitchen gardens. The result? That massive income boost we just saw, which in turn improved nutrition and, this is huge, it reduced the need for families to migrate for seasonal work. That creates way more stable and resilient communities.
All right, let's look ahead in our fifth section. We've seen what NABARD has been doing, but what's next? Where are they heading? This is all about their future plans, which involve a pretty big shift towards using more technology and being more proactive.
This slide basically lays out the key pillars for the future. And you'll want to note the keywords here. They're looking to mainstream climate-smart agriculture. They want to deepen public-private community partnerships. That's a really important concept. And check this out, the emphasis on advanced tech like satellite-based early warning systems. This shows that NABARD itself is adapting its own methods to fight climate change even better.
And here we are, the final section, and probably the most important one for your preparation. Think of this next slide as your one-page cheat sheet, your go-to for a quick revision right before the exam. It brings together everything we've just talked about.
Okay, lightning round revision. Total finance, just under 2,000 crores across 40 projects. The key funds, NFACC, GCF, and AF. The 2028 strategy, just remember AIMS. The flagship programs, LREDP for rain-fed areas and Tribes for vulnerable tribal groups. The key data points, that 70,000 rupee income jump in Jalpaiguri and the 162.7 hectare-meter water deficit in Kotepi. The new product, NGLF. And the future, it's all about tech and partnerships. If you can master this slide, you'll be in great shape for any question on this topic.
And so, we'll leave you with this final thought. We've seen the strategies, we've seen the funding, and we've seen the impact. But the single biggest challenge, as even NABARD points out, is scale. So the real question is this: how can these partnerships be built out effectively enough to make sure these incredible initiatives actually reach every single farmer who needs them? The answer to that question will truly define the future of rural India. Thanks for joining this explainer.